made these buttons for this Canvas classroom, but we're actually going to make it for my friend Jess's classroom that I'm working on, so I'm going to make it based on this aesthetic. When you make buttons, you have options. You don't have to make them rectangles. You can make them circles. You can make them squares. I'm going to show with a rectangle just because I like the way it looks, but you can always make it with other options. I like to use Canva to do my buttons. It's really easy to create one design for a button and then copy it. When I come into Canva, I already have signed up for the education account, but if you have not yet, I highly recommend joining it as an educator because you get access to a lot more pictures, fonts, designs, lots more options. So we're going to come up here to create a design. We're going to use custom dimensions. We're going to switch from pixels to inches. This is where I said if you want to make it a square, it can make a change. I like rectangles, so I'm going 5 by 3. If you wanted to make a square instead, you could make a 5 by 5, a 4 by 4. Really, you're just creating the dimensions because we can go into Canvas and edit the size in there. So 5 by 3, I hit create, and it comes up with a blank thing here. Now, I could use a template, but because I think buttons should be really simple and clean, I'm actually just going to come here to backgrounds. If I look back real quick at her page, I'm thinking I want to keep it really simple, but maybe bring in another color. So maybe I come up here to my toolkit. If you have pre-set up your colors, I've shown this in another video, which I will link in the description, but you can set it up so that you have the same colors for everything you do. So for her classroom, I've got these colors here. So maybe I want to use green for the buttons. I can always see what it looks like, and if I want to go back and change it, I can. Maybe actually I'm going to go with the dark blue. I think it's really nice to add in a border sometimes. So if you come in here to elements, you can search border, you can search frame, and you can look through. If you notice any of the ones that say free, even if you don't sign up for an educator's account, you have access to them. But when you join as an educator, you get the premium items for free. So maybe I'm searching through. I don't want it to be too fancy. Sometimes less is more, to be honest. Let me see, I might try this. You gotta be careful because some of the fancy designs you can't make them. So if I was making a square one, this would work really great for it, but because I have a rectangle, it's not going to as much. Kind of like actually the idea of this, because you can, what's really nice is you can come in here and you can go ahead and change the colors. So if I want to use that consistent coloring I have, maybe I use the yellow for the bottom one, or the top one, maybe I use a green, and maybe I use the blue. And I can kind of mess around. Maybe I want them in a different order. I'm going to actually try this. So as I was saying, you can use any sort of graphic you want. You can change the colors. In previous classes, I've come up here and I've searched, instead of a border, I just say rectangle. Well, if I could spell rectangle, that would help. And then I would just pick one of the simple rectangles here instead. And I would come in here and I would stretch it. Actually, I will show you how to make that on a separate page. So I would copy a page, get rid of here. So we'll look and see which one we like by the time I'm done. But I would stretch it. What's really nice about this, as I said, you can, on the basic kind of shapes, you can change. Maybe font-wise or color-wise, I want to use the color of her background. And what I notice when I'm done with that, I can get that out of the way so I can see clear. If you want to ever change the position, you can come in here and say middle, center, so everything's centered in place where it needs to be. So now I'm going to create my first button. If you have gone into the toolkit and set up your default fonts, you can easily go ahead and use it there. I am using a different font for her though. I believe I'm using this one here. So maybe I want to say current module. Okay, and then font wise, maybe I want to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so for there, and I want maybe because of this design I want it to sit there. So even if I want it centered, maybe center it on that. Okay, so I've got that option. Instead, I said if I want to keep it even cleaner, even simpler, I can come down here to my just plain one. Same thing if I want to position this to be in the middle. There we go. What's really nice, once you create a button that you actually like, instead of having to recreate it every time, you just come up to the copy page button, and now I can say previous modules. I can come up here and say maybe your school does Zoom chats or Zoom calls. And you just keep copying for however many buttons you need. Contact me. And I'll show you how that one works. Maybe I say weekly schedule. As I said, you can make it for whatever you want. I'm going to once again model it with 2 different styles just to see what I like. So instead of current module, previous modules, Zoom call. Maybe I want to keep it spaced out like that. Maybe I want it all together. If it ends up being slightly different, you can make the font bigger. You can just come in here, make sure you go to position again and say middle. Contact me. Maybe your school uses Student View or uses some sort of management site. Position again, middle. So maybe you want to say grade book. I want to center this one again. So once you have all the ones that you think you need to start, you can always come back and re-edit them more. I'm going to add grade book in here because I kind of grade book. So stretch it just a little. Maybe I bring this one down. Okay. As usual, I like to come up here and I like to change the file name. So these would be Canvas buttons, and I'm going to say math because I'm making it for somebody else. Once you've done that, keeping them super simple, I think it's really nice to just keep them simple. I have seen people add in Spanish as another option, so they would write it below in a smaller font, and I can show you that on my classroom when I'm done. But you're going to come up here, click download. I don't change any of the fonts. If you were just trying to pull one page, you could just pull one if you made a new one. But for the first time, I'm just going to hit download. Because there are multiple pages, it's going to come as a zip file. So it's super important that you come down here to your downloads and you click on it just so that it opens. Now I have access to them in my downloads folder. So if I come over here now back to the Canvas page that we're working on right now, I'm going to click edit. I'm going to stretch this page so that I can see. Now you have the option of just adding the buttons in. Normally you are more than welcome to do that. It is quite easy. It's going to follow the same procedure. I like adding a table and I will show you how to hide the lines just so that structurally it keeps its shape. So for right now I'll do a 4x4. I don't think I have enough buttons for the whole 4x4, but it will give us an idea. So once you're in your table, you're going to just click inside that first box. We come up here to picture and we're going to say upload image. Click on the little spaceship and I'm going to come into my download folder and we're going to see if I like the way this button looks. So I don't like it with the banner, so I'm going to come in here, just delete it, and I'll go use the other style that I made. What's really nice is once you see it, if you don't like it, it's easy to go back to Canva and change it. Okay, so I've got my first one. I'm just going to start by inserting the whole top row just so that you can see what it's going to look like before I actually start editing any of them. So I'm going to come up here, upload image, and Zoom call. And you can literally make any buttons you want. At the end I will show you some other ones that I personally made. Contact me. And I will put one in the second row just so that we see what it looks like when we add a second row. Okay, and gradebook. If you just leave it like this, let me just show you what it looks like. So if you save it, make sure you save. This is what your kids would see. I like to create a little bit more space between mine. So if we go back into the edit, I'm going to pull down this again so I can see. I like to click on my image options and change the ratio because I have 4 and that's what they look like. They're all the same size. I might size this down to 250. I also highly recommend you come up here into alt text and you change it to what the actual button is so that if your children need accessibility, they can use the immersion reader function and it will read what you put in as the alt text. You're going to click done and it makes it a little smaller. I'm going to repeat the same thing with all of them, changing the alt text, changing to that same ratio. I think I did 250. Let me just double check. Yep. If you only have 3 buttons in a row, your button size might be a little bit bigger. What's really nice, when you change the 1, it automatically, unless you click this button to turn it off, it automatically just changes the ratio. So Zoom call button, contact me. And you're going to repeat this for however many buttons you have. And then there's 2 more steps. Okay, so now that we've done that, I like to click on all my buttons at once to save time. And you're going to come up here to where it shows you the, is it right centered, left centered, or actually centered. And I'm going to center all of them. This way they're right in the middle, making the most use. Last thing, I want to get rid of these lines. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go back to that table function. I'm going to click on table properties this time. I don't change anything on the general screen except for center. This ensures that my table, no matter what screen my kids are working with, whether it's a widescreen, a phone, the table is centered on their screen. Then we're going to come into advanced. You got a few options. I have used none and hidden. They both do the same function, but I come in here and I choose the white border. As long as your background is white, white border is fine. I don't need to change the background color because I've already made my buttons, and I hit save. If you want, actually, let's go to hidden. I have noticed that sometimes when I choose, on hidden, if you choose hidden on a phone, they might still see it, so I'm going to try the none one instead, and then I click save. So right now, it looks like that. If you want more spacing between your rows, you go back into edit, and we just, on our second row here, we make sure we're clicked into that second row box. Maybe you add a row between them. So insert a row, and it's just a tiny row because I'm not putting anything in it. It's just a little one. It's still hidden, and now we've got a little bit more spacing. You could add an extra line if you want to. I will link in my description a video on how to hyperlink these buttons so that they will take you to your email, to a link, to something built into your actual Canvas account to show you how to do that.